Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me to talk about Bryan Harsin, the new head coach at the Auburn Tigers, and what impact he'll have on this season is Logan Landers. How's it going, Mr. Landers?
What's up, Jeremiah? It's another Monday here talking some football with you. I'm ready to get into this, man. Bryan Harsin, the new head coach for the Auburn Tigers, and all the fans out there. All the Auburn fans are looking forward to seeing what this man can do, help out their program, and we're here to break it down for you. So we'll get to it in just a second.
Yeah, and for everybody watching, make sure you share this video. Sharing this video over to your favorite Facebook group, to your friends, to your family, that's one of the best ways to get our name, 100 Yards of Football, out there and show your support for our programming. So thank you so much for everyone who's sharing our YouTube videos, sharing our Facebook videos, joining us on Twitch, and sharing our podcast. So thank you so much for that. And without further ado, Mr. Landers, tell us, what's Bryan Harsin about to do over at Auburn?
Man, he has some big shoes to fill, Jeremiah. Gus Malzahn, we know, the very good head coach for Auburn for a lot of years. Was there for 7-8 years now at UCF. They got rid of him last year. They decided that, we're going to go our separate ways, and they are paying him a lot of money to go coach for another team. So they knew that whenever they were looking for a new head coach to replace Mr. Malzahn, they weren't going to get a big name. They weren't going to find someone they were going to pay, a whole lot of money to. So they found Bryan Harsin, who is a solid head coach. This was a safe pick, I think. A lot of the experts also think that this was a good move. It's a guy who has coached for a pretty good while across a bunch of different schools. Mostly as coordinators for the most part. But the last couple of years, he's been a head coach doing his thing. But I think that, the Auburn Tigers have had a rough go at last few seasons. They finished 6-5 last year. The COVID shortened year. That's not what they're used to with that program. Then in 2019, 9-4, 2018, 8-5. So their last double-digit win season was back in 2017. But man, if you're Auburn, that's a long time. It might not feel like it, but if you're Auburn, man, that's a long time since your last double-digit win. And while yes, Gus Malzahn had a good career there for a couple of seasons, they just decided, it's time to move on. It just wasn't working. The record wasn't reflecting what they were hoping for. So they decided to go out there and get Mr. Bryan Harsin, which, I think that it is a good pick, like I said. So he's coached for a while, man. He went to Boise State. He's been at Texas as well as a co-offensive coordinator and a QB coach. He's been a tight ends coach. He's basically any offensive position he's been a coach for at various different levels of the college field. So he knows the insides and out of an offense for college football. I think that's fair to say. So in 2013, he was able to get his first job as a head coach at Arkansas State. So he had a solid career there. He finished 7-5 in 2013, his first year. So he had a good start to really, kick off his college football coaching career. So he started there. He was only there for one season, and then decided, Boise State's coming to call. So he went over to Boise State, man, and that was where he really kind of made his mark. He was there for 6 to 7 years, and he had a solid run at it as a head coach. His first year, they went 12-2. 9-4, 10-3, 11-3, 10-3, 12-2, and then his last year, 5-2. So overall, he got 69 wins and only 19 losses for a solid Boise State program. Mm-hmm. So I think that he's proven his track record that, you might say that you want someone a little bit more seasoned in the head coaching game. You might want him to be at coach for a little bit longer per se, but I think that this just kind of fell into their laps. Bryan Harsin, I'm sure he was looking to move on to a different school, and it just kind of fell to him that Auburn was looking for a head coach. They agreed on a good sized deal. I believe it was a 6-year contract. So Mr. Harsin's going to be out there in Auburn for quite a while. Mm-hmm. So I think that if he's going to make a good impact for this program, hey, look, we all know the main thing here. It's about those wins. Right. You got to get wins to stay a head coach in college football. That's the most important thing. And I think another thing too is that we've seen with Auburn over the past couple of years, um, a lot of their recruits have just not fulfilled what the scouts intended.
Right.
They have not they didn't feel their full potential. I think, and that's a various reasons why that might not work. But I think that if Bryan Harsin could come on in to Auburn, excuse me, and as long as he can rally the troops, I think, and get them back to at least a solid record. Anything over 500, I think, will be a good start. Obviously, you want to get those double-digit wins now again, and everything. But I think that if he can come in, if he can get a solid record, if he can get a few games over 500, I would say that's a good success for his first year. And like I say, he's going to be there for a while. He signed a good-sized contract.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's going to be there for quite a while. And I think that if you just let him coach, if you help him out, if you get him to help out with the recruiting a little bit, maybe help out with those important talks with those young players coming out of high school, I think it'll be fine. I think don't rush. They signed him to a few years here, 6-year deal. I'm looking at for around $5.5 million. So he's getting paid a good bit of money too. So he's going to be extra motivated to get some wins, help out some kids, get them to Auburn. And I think if you just let this play out, give them a season or two, I think that if they recruit well, if Harsin's offensive strategies can come into play, because like I said, he's been on the offense side of the ball basically his whole coaching career. So he knows how to run an offense. So if he can help out their offense, which, Bo Nix, we thought he was going to take a big leap. It didn't work. We'll have to see, but he just did not take that big step like a lot of us thought he would last year. So let him come in, let him get some of his recruits he wants, let him help out the program. And I think in a few seasons, I think that he'll make a good impact. But for this season alone, like I said, I think anything over 500, a few games over 500, I'd be fine with that if I'm an Auburn fan.
Yeah. Well, as he comes in as a new head coach, and inevitably, whether it's the way that the world works or whether it's true, they're going to think of this as a rebuilding year. So they're going to have a little bit of more slack and leeway in some people's minds, but in other people's minds, they're going to be like, all right, you got to hit the ground running. So I got to agree with you there. Like if he can do 50, if he can get that 50% and get up over 500, everybody's going to be like, all right, we've got Bryan Harsin. Let's do this. And you're talking about the Auburn Tigers here too. So they've got a lot of support. They've got a great alumni. They've got a great athletic department. And so, this man's going to be very well supported, I think, in his job from here on out. Any final words on Bryan Harsin?
Just like we were saying, just be patient. Just be patient. This guy's got 6 years on his contract. They're trying to get through the motions right now. They're trying to get through the tough wave of, not being a top football team in the SEC. They're not horrible by any means. They're not winning 2 or 3 games a season. They're right, they're playing competitive football, but they just can't get over that hump. They just can't get past, the Georgias, the Floridas, the Alabamas, so on and so forth of that rank. But I think, like I said, just give him some time. Let him get some new recruits in, see what he can do with those guys, see how he can mold them and shape them into a solid offense. And, I mean, Gus Malzahn had, I believe, 68, 69 wins at Auburn. We'll see how many Bryan Harsin can rack up. I think that as long as – you got a national championship, too, back in 2014. So we'll have to see if Harsin can bring back the gold to Auburn. But we'll have to see. Time will tell, man. But just be patient. Let him come in. Let him do his thing. Let him get his recruits. Let him get his offense work. See what he has to maneuver. See what he has to change. And I think, like I said, this first season, don't sweat it. This, like you said, it's pretty much a rebuilding year for Auburn. It's a brand new system. So you got to really start from scratch. And I think just a few games over 500, personally, I would be fine with that. If I'm an Auburn fan, I'm looking at that and be like, pretty solid record last year. I think if you can just build on that, maybe keep it the same, I'd be even all right with that, since it's a new system, new head coach and everything, and new players as well, which is the key part. So then just build from that. Don't stay complacent. Don't go backwards at all. Just keep building from there. So I think Harsin's going to have a solid career at Auburn, and hey, he's going to be there for a while, so we'll see what he can do.
Yeah. Well, you guys tell us what you think. Will Bryan Harsin be that dude over here at the Auburn Tigers? And how long is it going to take for them to get, back as a a stable footing with this new coach? Will they go straight into it? This next year will just be that big switch over, or will they have to have a little bit of time? Tell us what you think in the comments, and make sure, if you're not already listening to our podcast, to jump over and listen to it over at 100 Yards of Football, anywhere that you listen to podcasts, including over on Spotify, over on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. As far as I know, you can listen to us, and we put out a new podcast daily. So thank you so much for watching and for listening to our podcast. And for the entire team, I am Jeremiah Long, the producer, and this has been Logan Landers giving us the effect of Bryan Harsin as new head coach over at the Auburn Tigers. We'll be right back with another live video.